Hey, beautiful humans. It is me, LC, your transgender mentor, and we are back for another Soul Food Sunday night session with my good friend and co-host, Pamela Topjian of Breakthrough Hypnotherapy. Tonight, we are going to discuss an amazing coming of age, searching for yourself, just family, just an amazing documentary called Real Boy. And it is the story of Bennet Wallace, who was Rachel. And it just talks about Rachel's coming of age and searching for dreams and how to live his dreams and transitioning through his family issues. And it's just an amazing story because it has so much to it. It reminded me so much of my own life and my own past. And when I get to see a beautiful young human being actually coming into their own at a younger age, getting to mend family relationships and mend broken, hearts and spirits within, it just warms my heart. It makes me know that the work that we do by standing up and living our truth and showing our scars and being proud of them is worth it, because it is speaking to other human beings in the world. If nothing else, it lets us know we're not alone. And one of our 5 basic human needs as a human being is to know that we are not alone. I am so grateful that my friend Pamela turned me on to this documentary, and I've watched it now 3 times. We're going to show a couple clips in tonight's broadcast. I want to hear from you. If you've seen the documentary Real Boy, please feel free to chime in. If you haven't seen it, please go and watch it on Amazon Prime. Even if you are, there's a sobriety story, Bennet's sobriety story, and it speaks to those in recovery. It speaks to those in transition. It speaks to those that come from depression and family scars. There's something in this documentary for everyone, and I'm honored to be discussing it with Pamela tonight. So I did want to put this little disclaimer in there that there are some parts of this video that may be triggering to some, but also what I want to say the most is, if you or someone that you love or know or are acquainted with, or yourself, if you are suffering with cutting, major depression, anxiety, suicidal or homicidal thoughts, please reach out and keep reaching until you find the hand that can help you realize how worthy you are of this amazing life. I too once thought about making a permanent decision like that in my life, several times in fact. And I'm so grateful that the powers that be kept me here, because had I succeeded, I would not get to be here sharing my life, my story, my tragedies and triumphs with some of the most amazing and most beautiful human beings on earth. So please do not suffer in silence. Reach out wherever you are and get the help necessary. You are worth it. I promise you. All right, y'all. The way you can help support us is by subscribing to our channel here on YouTube. Make sure you get in touch with us about getting into the private Transgender Mentor Facebook. Also, like and share our page on Facebook, the Transgender Mentor. You know what? I'm so ready to get into this show. I know you are too. So let's get it on. Pamela Topjian, welcome to the Sunday Night Soul Session. Live with us. So grateful you're here. Hey, thank you so much for telling me about this documentary, Real Boy.
It's
Um,
amazing. It has
it
so
is
much and I think it's just an hour, just over an hour, and it's just
right.
jam-packed with
It
the whole
is.
story and then so much
It is.
involved in that. It's just really amazing.
So it really is.
Really well done.
Let's start by saying a couple hellos and get it started. Rachel Dahmer, thank you so much for being here. Hello. William is watching from New Zealand. Hey William. Pam V, who's the most beautiful human on earth. And Janine Richards, Martin John, my favorite recovery mentor in the house. I'm so grateful to have everybody here and for everybody that'll watch this on the replay. Thanks so much. We're grateful to be a part of your journey. So, Pam, Real Boy, best documentary, hands down, I've seen in a long time as far as a young trans person coming of age. And you're right. This thing is a little over an hour. I mean, we follow young Ben from a very young age, home videos, to where Ben was always tomboyish. You know,
Mhm.
his family was that was a thing, that his family was very accepting of Ben's being a tomboy.
Yeah.
I in fact, was always a tomboy too, and so I was really surprised by Ben's family response to Ben coming out. Um, I've got a little bit of the documentary here. You'll be able to see. We're going to show just a few clips from it, but I urge you all to please go and take a look at this thing from start to finish. Your life will be forever changed. So here's a little bit from the documentary.
Boy for a very long time. Up until I got to middle school and puberty started happening and everybody was changing. Happy birthday, dear Rachel. I felt like I either had to grow my hair out or be a loser or be an outcast or be different, and I didn't want to be different.
Now we get to see Rachel begin to be angry, still not knowing.
I started cutting myself when I was really young, and I think that was my first addiction. It was definitely how I dealt with feeling so wrong.
Feeling so wrong.
I was stealing from the people
Profound.
around me and doing drugs that I swore I'd never do. And my dad was gambling a lot, and my mom was watching her family fall apart.
I want to pause it right there, Pamela, to just talk about that whole statement of feeling so wrong. You know,
Yeah.
that's a very hard age to be at, but I can definitely identify with the feeling so wrong. It's one of the way Ben has a beautiful way with words and expressing himself. Um,
Yeah. There's part of
Very universal.
part of the song that I want to bring up, one of the songs that they have in the documentary where
Mm,
they play almost a full song a couple times because he's working on it
yes.
with his other transgender friend later on in the documentary. But I wrote this down because I didn't want to forget to say it. But two parts of it that really struck me that just like says it all is
Mm,
um, if the if the only truth you have is that you're living a lie, and then
mm,
if the skin your soul embodies doesn't seem to fit quite right, so those two lines that are really, that just
yes,
says it all. That's
it
how,
does.
people feel that are transgendered, and they feel this way. I mean, you see from the very beginning, this is not, like you always like to talk about, that it's, transgender is kind of separate from the rest of the,
It's
alphabet mafia.
very yeah,
But,
very separate.
that's, the feelings like that has nothing to do with sexuality and everything to do with not being who your body, who people think you
Absolutely.
are because of your body. Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I'm glad that you wrote those down, because I had every intentions of writing those same
Mm,
words down, because I thought nothing even that I've ever heard or even said myself actually embraces the feeling of it other than those words, because that's exactly how you feel. And the cutting, I remember being around the same age with the cutting. You're defiling this body that seems to be attacking you, and that's really what it feels like. Is you're going through this puberty, and now where you were tomboy, and or are not judged as harshly when you are a young kid.
hmm
Now there are greater expectations that are being placed upon you to, okay, break out of that, break out of this cycle, this trend, this phase, and get with the program. And it truly
Right.
seems like your body begins to attack your soul.
You
And
can see in that clip that you showed at the birthday party where, I think he must be, 12, 13, right around that age. And you can see where he's very uncomfortable and doesn't seem to
yeah,
feel like the dress really fits and the long hair
right.
was just to fit in. And he thought he had to look more girly,
Yes.
and it's heartbreaking, just that tiny little clip when what's really going on inside of him.
Yeah.
What's
Yeah.
really fascinating to me too is that he's so young, like right now. Like this was what, 2015,
So 2016.
2017?
Yeah.
Okay.
2016. Yeah.
So, and now 2021, when he made that, I think he was just turning 21, wasn't he? Right around
Hey,
there?
he was 19 when he started. So he was 19 and 20 making this
Okay.
documentary.
Yeah, so
Very
like now
profound for a young
he's
man.
still a very young man, and
Yes.
there's he's got so much ahead of him. And
Eh,
he's on the
well,
same track that you are. He wants to, from following him on social media, you see he wants to help to bring this awareness, to everybody and what it's
well,
really
and one of
like
the
to live, sorry.
yeah, no, it's fine, because that's really the truth about it, is being
Yeah.
able to see people at a younger age not have to go through the years of
Yeah.
torment to try to fit in, or try to be normal, or or escape their pain. Because when we're talking about, and I think that this is such a great example of someone's sole purpose on the earth,
hmm
because we see Ben go through so much at such a young age. So,
Yeah.
Ben goes through addiction. You're trying to numb the pain of being locked in this wrong place. You're numbing the pain of the body's attack on the soul. You are now numbing, and I like the words that he used when he said cutting was his first addiction. I,
Yeah.
I will never forget the first time that I cut. I don't even know how I was aware of it, or how I came to it, but I remember the first time, being really engulfed in emotion, and having no outlet for it. And I remember just that first slash, and feeling that release, and the true attack on the body that I felt like was attacking me. You look at the body and you say, you're the reason for all my problems. You're the reason for all of this.
Right.
And it does. It becomes a coping mechanism that you use far too much. And later on in Bennett's story, he talks about the last time that he cut being because he cut too deep. And that's always a fear. The same thing happened to me. It's happened to a lot of people out there. And and it's a bit of an awakening, but at the same time it almost feels like now this coping skill's being taken away from you. So Bennett goes through, the cutting. Bennett goes through addiction, getting sober, And I think part of his sober journey comes in the fact that he becomes comfortable in his own skin. You
Yeah.
know, that's one of the biggest, just being able to be comfortable in my own skin today
Yeah.
is an amazing gift in my recovery journey. Not just because now I'm trans and that's who I am, but because I'm more physically who I am and spiritually who I am. The
Yeah.
spiritual part doesn't have to do with being trans, has to do with becoming loving to myself and
Mhm.
accepting myself. But Bennet is just an elegant speaker. I mean, Bennet, just the way he writes and expresses himself,
Yeah.
and watching this documentary just brought up so much. I can feel Bennett's pain while he's standing there in that birthday party. I can feel his pain when he's going through the trials with his family, and then trying to get sober and in a body. I mean, it's almost like you come down to making that decision. If I want to get clean, I've got to learn how to live in my skin, in whatever way that is. So, um, so hold on, Pam. We're gonna do just a little bit more of this. I'm gonna
Okay.
take you all to this one really. This is a big moment for me, and I wanted to share this with everyone too.
The argument of you're not.
I just don't get.
I think it goes back
still
to
baffles me.
what defines what is a boy. Is it your brain or is it your body?
We
In
should
our
mention this is his mom.
hearts, you're Rachel.
Yes.
That's what we've known you as, and that's a hard habit to break. What's so wrong with the opinion of you are who you are and you get what you get, and
Is that why you got plastic surgery? Very minor plastic surgery. Enhancing what you have, is that all right with you? Where do you draw the line? You get
Where do
what
we
you
draw
get.
the line?
Stop getting haircuts and hair dye. Stop piercing your ears. Stop putting on makeup.
This kid is wise beyond his years.
Yes. Yes.
He is very wise beyond his years.
And it's good that mom listens too. She's listening.
Very good.
Even though takes a long time to get there, but she is trying. She's
Yes.
taking it in.
That's why I'm grateful to have your perspective on this subject, because it's very easy for someone in my shoes who's been through some of this as well, and being, you know, being
To only
disowned
see,
by your family,
yeah,
right? To
yeah,
now, the whole pressure of the family to accept this is now on mom, and
yeah,
I know I know that for me, looking at it from my perspective, when I watch this documentary, I see mom making these changes, but I do question why she makes the changes. It seems, and I recognize this very personally, that it's easier for her to be accepting when she is around other people that
right.
are accepting, and it's much harder for her when it's just her
Her
and
own.
Ben. Yeah, and just her. And so the end result of all of this, not to be the big spoiler, everybody, is that mom does do a lot of changing. I wouldn't
Yeah.
say that it's drastic changes.
She's coming along.
She does. And again, that's why I'm grateful for your perspective, because, me looking at it, I see it from a different emotional space,
Yeah.
and you the same way. So talk to us, as much as you, possibly can or want to, about what the struggle, because I would assume that you all are probably about the same age. She's probably a little bit older than you. I don't know. I'm just going by, what I think looks like, wherever. But what around that generation, because she explains that her mom was very progressive, that her mom was
Right.
a women's libber,
Right, was
that,
one of the first ones to go out to work or do her own thing or whatever it was. I do remember that yeah, she was saying her mother was one that sort of broke the mold in a lot of areas and sort of encouraged her to not be just, just to get married and live, your rest of, to have that goal as being just a wife and mother, you know.
hmm
And I say just a wife and mother as if that's, less than, but you know what I'm saying.
right.
So,
Yeah, for
but to
sure.
have
For
to
sure.
have more goals and to live her own life the way she wanted to.
To not
Yeah,
just
she
fall
said,
into social,
right,
social
right, to think
boxes.
outside of the box, yeah, and to be her own person. So it is very interesting, but they are very sort of, and this kind of shows too that, you know, a, whether transgender or not, but addiction, self-harm, alcoholism, this is a very, I would say, upper middle class family, wouldn't you?
Seems
Like
to be.
they
Yeah,
were
yeah.
not. It's not like somebody that lives, a very poor life or had abuse in their background or anything. So that's not all that it is. It's people
Right.
try to say, oh, because of this or because of that, but it's not. It's across the board, and that goes for you know um, addictions as well as any LGBTQ uh, people. So um, so one thing that I noticed in with the mother is near the end when he's getting some surgery, and luckily he has some good support system with some good friends and some
hmm
other, as we'll get to, some other people who have been through transition completely, and he is able to connect with some of these people and get some real good support, even though he may not have
Yes.
it from his family. And I think that's really key. That really has had
Very
helped
important.
him along his way. And so when the mother connects with another mother, and the other mother says, the one mother is that, Ben's mother is saying, I don't understand this. I just don't understand this. And the other mother says to her, you don't have to understand it. You just have to love him because
That's yeah.
he's your child. Just love him. He's going to get enough people from the outside that don't understand and that hate him for his differences. Just love him through it. That's all you need to know. That's all you need to do. And that, I'm getting chills right now because that was
Yeah.
kind of a really
It's
um,
very profound.
yeah, very profound moment in that documentary. And I think that that's what so many family members, whether it's parents or other family members, try to understand. And even if they can't understand, you don't have to understand to still support and love your loved one.
I think
You know?
that's the pressure that we, we and society as a whole, and maybe it's the function of our brain, but we feel like we have to understand something in order to accept it. And that's
Yeah,
why that advice was so profound in my
yeah,
heart, because that is the truth. And I think so many times, and I know this to be true with my own son, and I think that it's just true for parents, that a lot of time parents are often more worried about how these things affect them. Because to be honest, this
right.
documentary caused me to do some work on some of my feelings and forgiveness, because
Mhm.
watching this mother in the beginning, and especially the clip that I just showed, that's towards the end of that clip in that conversation. Actually, there's more
Mhm.
conversation going on where it seems to be those that are different are constantly questioned, and almost badgered by those that don't understand, versus those that don't understand
Yeah.
kind of do their own research. But and that's where I had to do some work inside of me and for some forgiveness, because I found myself getting angry, as if, how does this affect you? Like what's easier for you to see? Is it easier for you to see me die of an overdose? Easier for you to see me cut,
Right.
harm, and live a life that is not fulfilling to myself, constantly
Mhm.
waking up each day angry that I'm alive, and wishing that today would be the day that I could end all of this? I mean, what's easier for a parent, or for people that are going through something like this? If you have a child or a family member or a friend that you don't understand, what's more important. Love says, I want you to be happy, but I think this is where we're able to come to a place where we have to begin to question ourselves. And we sometimes think that our children, because we've been taught this, that our children are a reflection of us. So if they have problems or if they're different, it's on us that people are going to think that we did something wrong, and maybe we did, but that's not the point. The point
And did
is,
go ahead.
go ahead. No, you go
No,
ahead. The
but you were
point
just
just is simple, that what is most important in life is watching another human being be fulfilled in their life, regardless of what that is, you know and that's what I have on there. So it's about forgiveness for me. I had to do a lot of work inside of that.
so the mother does mention, and she's very candid and open, which is awesome. She
Mm-hmm.
mentions one time to the interviewer, not while talking to Bennett, that she does, when family members ask, or when her friends even ask, how is Rachel, or whatever his name was, um, she'll say, oh, fine, went to school, or,
He's
doesn't,
trying to
and
find
tries,
himself.
yeah, and she doesn't bring up, she purposefully, she's a little bit not embarrassed as much as she's not sure how it will look on her,
Mm-hmm.
like you said.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, and it's great that she's so candid. And I did see a interview with some of the cast members later. I don't know if you saw that.
Mm-mm.
It wasn't a documentary interview. It was written out. I read it somewhere in looking through about this story. And she wasn't going to be on. Like, you don't see his dad anywhere in there.
Right.
He didn't agree to be on, and she didn't either until halfway through. She said, it's okay, but she wants her side shown too, and
I'm
so
grateful.
yeah, so that was really, through the documentary, helped her, not just what we see, but just doing the documentary as well.
Yeah.
So
Well, it really helped me too, because I always want to remember, or try to be. Sometimes we do forget, and not really forget. Forget's not the right word, so I'm just going to lay it out the way it's on my heart. Sometimes when we find ourselves, when we come to this place where we understand, that transgender is what, is kind of the box that I fit into, or we come to this place of acceptance, more so to speak, and or almost like, okay, now I've got a process or something. Sometimes it's easy to forget that a family is going to go through this with you. That this
right,
is not, and it's the same in addiction. It's the same in
I
active
was just
addiction and
thinking that it's the
recovery.
same thing with
That
recovery.
there are other people that are going to go through this with
Hmm.
you. And if we do only stay focused on ourselves, not in a way that we should be always tiptoe around their feelings, but we should be compassionate in the way that, you know, that we're all humans, and it's
Right.
going to affect each of us if we are a family unit, and we've got to learn how to work on this together. So I was really happy that she agreed to be in the
Yeah.
documentary. I am very happy she was very open, and
Hmm.
spoke candidly and openly about this, her, the
Right.
way she feels,
Even when it
regardless
didn't
of
look good
how
on
it was
her.
going to look.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Regardless of how it was going to look to the world at
Right.
that point. But something that you said that was very well, there's something that Ben says later on, as mom has kind of come around, and that the two families of his mentor, and the mentor's parents, and him and his mom are
Yes.
talking, and he says something that again is so profound. He says, whenever I finally figured out, that I had an answer, that I was transgender, and this is my answer, I thought that I had found something, and really I opened a door to nowhere,
Right.
that there was now only work to be done
More questions and more work. Yeah.
far more. I just always have to say this, because the biggest turning point in my young transitioning life was my friend Martin John, who may or may not still be here with us, but questioned me. He questioned my identifying myself as trans only, saying this is who I am. And why is it who you are? That's not all there is to you. And so having someone, because it ties into what you were talking about mentorship, having someone that you trust their heart and their motive, and what they're saying to you, it comes from a place of pure love, and
Right.
is vital in helping you navigate through something so big and in a healthy way,
Right.
because
And
without that
know they're going to be
question.
open with you. Yeah.
Right. And so I think for Bennet, having Joe Stevens as a mentor was the perfect mentor for Ben. Now, I see Joe Stevens as, of course, a bit older
Hmm.
and far more, in transition than Ben, which is really great to be able to have someone to talk to about what the process is about and how it's
Right.
going to hurt, and just different things that that we see Joe struggle more with his sobriety.
Yeah.
We see Joe, because he lived longer in the escape of the feelings and the non-acceptance of his own self, that Joe struggles harder with the
Yeah.
substance use and the substance
It was
disorder. In
great
fact,
that there was a little bit of his story in there as well. It
yes,
wasn't just the story of Bennett Wallace and
right,
his family. It added in a little bit of, the people around him. Like you were saying, we're all connected. So,
yeah,
whatever is going on with you, there's going to
right,
be other people that are going through similar things or things related to what you're going through that you're connected
yep,
with. So not only
yeah,
was he with with Joe, who was older and more, further along in transition, and he's like a big brother, a mentor to him, which was so awesome to see.
oh yeah,
Um, but then, and he also took that on, like I think that helped Joe with his sobriety a little bit because he knew he had to be there for Bennett, so that was kind of
right,
awesome as well.
yeah,
But also his friend that was his peer, and they were going through
mm-hmm,
things together, and they were really close friends, and they were going through the same things at the same time, and they could really relate with each other. And those are the two mothers because they went in for surgery the same
right.
time, and the two mothers came together. So that's just so much in there. It's just so awesome.
Yeah, it's jam-packed with life lessons, not even
Yeah,
just about being, trans, and not even
right.
about sobriety, just it's packed with amazing lessons
Yeah,
and deep questions and really profound statements. One of the things that I did appreciate about the documentary as well is that it shows Joe's relapse. So Joe has a relapse,
yeah.
and I had thought about it during that. It seems that when Ben started finding, Ben's own legs, so to speak, when
Mhm.
Ben's legs started, getting stronger and he was more able to walk and live in his skin, it seemed that maybe, Joe had that, less maybe needed situation. and
Mhm.
and so, Joe allowed himself to be, with people, old using
Right.
friends. And it was very great to hear Joe tell his relapse story in the way
Yeah.
that he took full responsibility. He said, I hung out with someone I
Mhm.
used to, get loaded with.
Mhm.
It was a beautiful day. We, had a few smoked, had a few beers, and then the
Yeah.
next day you wake up with that relapse regret, that relapse shame, and you say, okay, so I did that. Now how do I cover up the shame? So I keep
Yeah.
going and I keep going. And that part really made me really sad, because of course you're really invested in people's lives, and you want to see them do well.
Yeah.
um
It's just so
that's
real
why.
though, so that's what's great
Right,
too. Yeah.
exactly. And I think that we don't talk enough about sobriety and recovery in the LGBTQ communities, especially in the trans community. It's why I reached out to you and said, hey, when we're putting up videos, make sure we put the, sober trans
Yeah.
hashtag, because it needs to be talked about more. We have a much higher rate of addiction
Yeah.
simply because of, a lot of people are pushed out of their families. They're dealing with internal questions and
Yeah.
answers and understanding that others aren't. So it's something that needs to be talked about more. So I was grateful again that this encompassed all of it.
Yeah, that story was another story within that story, and they didn't
Right,
just brush over it because it wasn't part of his transition. They put it in
right.
there because it's all connected, because it's life.
Absolutely. It is. It's life, and it was real life, and
Yeah,
it's just an amazing story. I think Martin has put the link here in the
yeah.
description in the comments. So I really appreciate that, Martin. Thank you so much for
There
doing
are
that.
a few places that it can be found. So if you just type
Yeah.
it in, just Google search it, there's a few places it can be found, and I know that
Tubi is
Amazon
free.
Prime.
Yeah.
Right, Tubi TV, TUBI, and I did post that in the Transgender Mentor Facebook page and the group, the
Yes,
private
thank
group.
you.
So, as well as the Amazon Prime link. That one with Amazon, it was free, like
Right.
before, and now
Yeah.
$2, $3. I don't know. It's not
Yeah,
very expensive, but you can get it free.
yeah, it was $3.99 to rent,
Okay.
and I rented it just
Yeah,
because I was in that spot. But I did
sure.
find it in Tubi because I wanted to do some
Yeah.
research for tonight. Because and I did find it for free on Tubi. I think
Yeah.
this where Martin's got it, I think is probably free too as well.
Yeah.
And I just urge anyone, whether you have a trans story or not, whether it doesn't really
Yeah.
matter. It is a very heartwarming and amazing
Yeah.
documentary, very well made by just a young, brilliant mind.
Yeah.
I mean, Ben's songwriting is the best songwriting about the transitioning and recovery
Yeah.
process that I've ever heard. I've never
Such
heard such
amazing
profound
wording.
lyrics.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean,
and
if
I was watching the documentary, and when I found it, I had no idea we were going to be doing this. So I wasn't doing research for
right,
this.
right.
And, I got a lot out of it. And one of my articles in my breakthrough hypnotherapy, website was about living authentically. And there's a lot in there about this documentary. And that's when I wrote that, was after watching this documentary. And that's, I don't know how many months ago, but that was before we started talking about doing this.
Yeah,
So my point is that, you don't have to have any, connection with, recovery or LGBTQ people or anything to get something from this. Definitely.
yeah.
It's a
I think
great story.
this was one of the first things that you had talked to me about when we first became friends. So
Mm,
I knew that this was something that you watched
really
long
touched me.
before,
Yeah.
yeah, we were friends or anything. I remember you
Yeah.
asking me a couple times, "Have you
Have you
seen
seen
this?"
it?
And I thought that I had
I
because
wanted your take on it to see if
you
how you felt about that. Yeah.
well, you think that you've seen, them all, and when you were saying it's
Sure.
about trans kids, I had just watched another documentary that was about kids that were much younger,
I saw one
and
of those.
and with the
Yeah.
families and the parents and different things, and I kind of
Yeah.
thought that's what you're talking about. So when I found it and watched it, I thought, no, this is
Yeah.
probably one of the best, documentaries that
Yeah.
I've ever seen, and I watch a lot. Um, and so, it was really touching, and I really appreciate you bringing that to my attention because I might not have seen it otherwise. I would love to be able to hear more of Ben's music. I would love to be
Mhm.
able to, I've looked everywhere to try to find, these songs in
Yeah.
production, and I can't seem to
I
really
found it.
find them.
I
Did
did. I'll have
you?
to send you the
Oh
link.
gosh, please, please, because I looked and looked and looked and couldn't
Yeah.
find it because I mean, it's music that I would just enjoy on a daily basis.
Yeah.
So it's really good. I mean, he's a profound young man, and we hope to. Pamela has reached out to him, and I'm going to reach out even more and farther because my good friend Martin is is giving me some amazing pointers on how he uses his intuition to get guests,
Yes,
and
yes,
he's
yes.
it's really profound, and it's been really
Uh,
helpful for me. So I put that into practice when I watched this, and the first person that I wanted to reach out to on the show is Joe Stevens. I don't know why. You would think that
when
Ben
you
would have been my first choice, but
when you
Joe
said
was
that, I was
my
like, oh yeah, I didn't even think of that.
yeah. Yeah, Joe was like the moment I saw Joe, I had that feeling that Martin described to me, and I was like, okay, so
Sure,
that's the
sure.
sign. And Joe
And
has been a little
he's
bit
more
harder.
private too. Yeah.
Yes, Joe's been a much harder to kind
Hmm.
of to
He's
get
more
around
private.
to.
Hmm.
But if it's meant to be, it will be. But I'm very
Right.
interested in going deeper in Joe's story, especially Joe's recovery story. Um, I just want to know more about Joe's struggles and what they are.
Right.
And as a musician, I was a musician for a long time too, and a lot of my using got really deep in that musicianship.
Hmm.
And I think that Joe also is he's surrounded in a profession that is filled with, temptations of
Right.
all types at all times,
And they play
playing
at
in bars
bars
and,
and yeah.
yeah, festivals and places where people, openly and knowingly drink and use.
Hmm.
And then plus it's, in the musician culture, you've always heard that lie that you can go deeper and access more of your mind. And, I used
Hmm.
all those excuses to go deeper
Hmm.
into abyss. Even you'd create music that you would think is brilliant, and then listen back to it the next day, and you're thinking, does that even make sense? Like, what?
Yeah.
So, I really want to talk to Joe and his stuff, but there was more, so much more that. I loved his valid point, the point that I just showed you all, where, mom's talking about, well, explain to me, and he's, you get what you get. I've heard that very same statement. Well, this is the way God made you. And I'm like, how is it that you don't know that God didn't make me transgender for a purpose unknown to you?
Yeah.
For a purpose even unknown to me at this moment. But the
Yeah.
more that I open up and speak in the world and live in my truth and hopefully help others live in their truth, then I can see that, it's a gift and it's not a curse.
Right.
That, that I am here in this exact space and time where I'm supposed to be for this
Right.
exact reason, you
Because you do
know?
it, you know.
Exactly.
You're meant to be
Exactly.
doing this.
Exactly. So
I
I want to go ahead.
no go go ahead. No,
I
go
just
ahead.
want all I want to do is just help people understand that where they are is where they are, and you can learn to love yourself. So that was all. That was all.
Um, so I've been asked a couple times, why am I doing this? Why do I care? Or what do I have to do with any of this? And so, I just want to say that, just anybody that, and I've had people say, oh, I don't know anybody, that's part of that community, or I have no identification or connection with that community at all. People have said that to me. So they're not interested because of that. So two things I want to say is, yeah, you do. You might not know that you know somebody, but you do. You absolutely do. And it may even be in your family and you don't even know. That's part of the whole alphabet mafia, somewhere in there. Or questioning, which can be the cue. But
Mhm.
so another thing, and I bring this up almost every Sunday that we do this because I think it's so important and people don't realize, and it really touched me, is to know that the youngest suicide victims, the children, 8 years old, 10 years old, 12 years old, the youngest suicide victims are usually transgender. They're questioning, they don't feel that they fit in their body, their family isn't accepting them, and or they're kicked out even at a very young age. And this goes with that other story we wanted to get to at some point too, with that
Mhm.
Native American man
Yeah.
that was kicked out as well. But then too, I heard you mention on your other podcast too, the Walk a Mile in My Shoes with Eric McCoy, that the 40% and it's probably more like, 50 or 60% really,
Mm-hmm.
of um, of homeless youth, homeless minors, are people that have been kicked out because they came out as gay or bi or transgender or something,
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
part of the LGBTQ. So we've got children. If you don't know, and if you don't think you know anybody that's part of that LGBTQ community, or if you don't want to, or you don't think you have any connection, think about children. How can you not love all children, even if you have a hatred for adults that you feel chose this, or you feel have lost their way or whatever? There are children that are out on the streets. There are children, attempting suicide. If that doesn't touch you, you know, you know,
Well, yeah.
there's more wrong with you than anybody else if that doesn't touch you somewhere. So
Well,
that's
thank you for saying that. I mean, thank you for bringing that up, Pamela. And I say to people, whether you, like you said, whether you think that you know somebody or you don't know anybody, or that this doesn't touch you, if it's come across your path in whatever way, whether it's
right,
somebody suggesting a video, I mean, we are all one as humans, and the way that you can learn to move and navigate and be a better human in your world is to have an open heart
yeah,
to any and everyone that is just like you, because we are all just alike in the ways that our bodies function. And it's kind of like when we were doing the video today, excuse me, for Walk a Mile in My Shoes. We of course visited racism, the KKK. So we
mhm,
started, and that whole question always comes up of, and it's always used that, well, we're made in God's image. But the problem is that we've switched that around as a people, and we've made God in our image,
right,
so that
right,
we
yeah.
can then look at whatever stretches our comfort zones and say, well, that's not of
People
God.
have
And the
that confused, that image, yeah.
Absolutely. And see, that's what's going through the hearts and the minds of those that are questioning,
Hmm.
walking the earth, questioning, because there's no stability within them. There's nothing but shame. And that shame comes from people refusing to stretch their own comfort zones. Because when you're not willing to openly stretch yourself, you are automatically saying to someone, and you never know who's watching, that
Right,
something's wrong with them, that I'm
right,
not willing to do this because it doesn't affect me.
right,
Well, when one of us dies, a part of all of us dies.
yeah.
And
When there are
that's not,
children on the street and children
yeah,
are attempting suicide and even becoming victims of suicide, that that has to touch everybody. I can't imagine how that cannot touch everybody.
how you can vilify a young person, and and put it out as this is something that they would choose. Like you said, there's so many young people that are living on the streets, having to sell their souls to do things to just survive on the street, when they should be still running and playing and living a safe,
Carefree, yeah.
comfortable life. Exactly. And that comes from people only caring about how it affects them.
Mhm.
And that's got to give you pause, that within yourself. If you feel like, nah, I'm just gonna stop, I'm gonna cut off watching this video, they're talking about something that doesn't involve me. Well, ask yourself how it doesn't involve you. This is
Right.
the world we live in.
Hmm.
And even when you do something so small as to introduce yourself to a stranger and say, these are my pronouns. Hi, my name's, LC, and my pronoun, I use he, she, I mean he, them pronouns, whatever it is. I said that in my sensitivity class. I said, just start getting used to doing that.
Yeah.
As you do that, it gives comfort to people that are standing on the outside, and and saying,
And
okay,
they
well,
make a
that's
mental note.
safe.
That's a safe person. Yeah.
That's a safe
That's
space.
somebody I know
Yeah.
I can trust, I can be open and honest with, or I don't have to hide
Won't
any part of
judge.
me with. Yeah.
We do that in the recovery community when we go to doctors and hospitals. We listen because that's,
Hmm.
human in our survival instinct. We listen for safe cues. So
Hmm.
we are listening to how
Yeah.
doctors speak, how nurses speak. Is this somebody we can tell that
Hmm.
we are in recovery? You
Yeah.
know, the biggest part of you wants to be honest because it's your recovery program, but that human part of you that does not want to be discriminated against
Hmm.
today or treated less than human today
Right.
sometimes will trump that honesty and just not say anything
Yeah.
because nobody wants to be treated like they're less than human.
Right. Right. Or have
So
any
it went
stigma put on them, just,
right,
with without looking at them personally, but just the
right,
stigma behind whatever
right.
labels or whatever you've been through.
And so and that's why I always talk about how the recovery community, can really, really help change and enhance the world is because
Hmm.
we have what a lot of the world needs in that we should know this. Like when we just anybody in recovery that just heard me say that had that feeling within them. Now imagine, because they've probably been through that. So now
Hmm.
imagine you have that feeling every single day in everywhere that you walk and every time you leave the house and every time you look in the mirror. So you already know how someone who's
Yeah.
questioning, their internal self
Hmm.
feels. Don't forget that you know already how it feels
Right.
and you know, be a safe space, be an understanding, be a light. What we've got in the recovery community can really, really, if we will grab a hold of it and realize what we're holding, could be the most amazing gift to the world, that of all. Like William says, experience, strength, and hope, regardless of what the circumstance is.
Yeah, and people
Regardless.
don't realize the strength. I think I had shared with you that, when I had worked overnights in detox and recovery, that's when I got to sit with people that were really going through the hardest times because there wasn't a lot of med passes, there wasn't a lot of doctor communication, there wasn't a lot of stuff that you had to do other than just be there, sort of just in case kinds of things. And and get some stuff ready for day shift or whatever. But you got to sit with people and listen to them or go through with them, all that happens during detox. And it's just really, what really struck me is how strong people are that, are going through recovery, that they are willing. It's so much easier to just stay in that world, right?
Of course.
It's so hard to go through recovery and then you still have the whole stigma, you still have most likely you have some sort of criminal record. You can't get a lot of jobs that other people can get. You can't. There's so much stigma and so much that the world will always put on you, always. How many years recovered, that that will always be a part of you. And they even teach you that, once in recovery, always in recovery. And I don't really like that, but I mean, that's my own opinion, you know,
It's,
but
yeah,
it's,
the labels.
yeah. And, and they'll always be looked down on. And after, people in recovery have gone through so much more than somebody who's never been through any of that. And people don't realize that. These, like
Yeah,
you, when you say the recovery community can change the world, the recovery community are some of the strongest people, internally strong people that there are in the world,
amen to
seriously.
that. Amen to that. And we have the tendency, society has the tendency to look down upon those that lose control. Because we advertise alcohol, we push people to drink, and then those that, fall into addiction are considered weak. And we
Right.
we hear that, we experience it so much, whether it's even said out of someone's mouth, it's, it's body language, it's looks, it's everything. We hear that so long that we begin to believe it. Now I'll say that that whole statement, once an addict, always an addict, I don't agree with either, because that,
Mhm.
just listen and feel how hopeless that is. If we cannot live and be beyond our labels, beyond our belief systems,
Mhm.
then if we really say that enough or hear that said enough, what's the point? And that was
Yeah, isn't
my
that keeping you
point.
down? Yeah.
Right, right. That was my point in early recovery, when I realized one of the biggest reasons I began to speak out in this way was not because I felt like I was special, but because I was not a person that found my hope in 12 step. And I felt like that was the only modality of recovery. And that if I could not do that, I can't tell you how long I stayed using feeling hopeless, because I realized if this is the only way, and that way was not my way, then that means that I'm even worse off than someone else. I might as well not try. Now, these are the things that we're saying to ourselves, and it was time for me to stand up and say, am I alone in this? And I found out very quickly that I wasn't alone.
Right.
And I have nothing at all but, mad love for the 12 step, program and 12 step community. It changes and helps many human
Right.
beings across the world. And I
Whatever
love
helps
that.
is great.
Right.
Yeah. But
That
not
that's the
one
point.
thing is for all. Yeah.
Right, right. If that were the case, it would be much easier, but
Right.
it's not. And so in community, we've had to basically fight the stigma of that within each other, that if it's not this way, it's not really
Mhm.
recovery, and this, we've grown, but you know, that's why I really want to deal in house in the recovery community, because if we can
Mhm.
help these human beings, us human beings, realize what you said, which is where I used to believe this was a curse, now I believe it's my greatest asset to
Yeah.
be a life changer, a thought leader in the world in which we're living in. And
Yeah.
I urge anyone and everyone that'll ever watch this video ever to stand up and not be ashamed of where you've come from,
Right.
and not let the world tell you that you're anything different other than, special, blessed, amazingly strong,
Yeah.
because this is a
Capable,
gift.
worthy.
Yes. Yes. And it's not right. It's really not right that you pay your price for your criminal activities, your behaviors. You pay your price, you do your whatever your punishment is, and that doesn't go away. It should. And of course, we could do a whole
Yeah.
10-week series on the justice
Right.
system, but we won't. But just
Right.
just be careful to not let others define you. And I say
Right.
that to the trans community, to the LGBT community, to
Everybody.
everybody.
Mhm.
Let's move past letting the world define us, and
Mhm.
let's begin to define ourselves. And I think that's the most beautiful gift of the trans community, the recovery community,
Mhm.
is that it's time for us to stand up and say, but no, I define who I am and
Right.
how much I matter. And, you know, that's that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's that.
I want to attempt real quick, while we are while we're getting ready to go out. I do want to real quick see if I can't quickly find that one
The song.
that one song. It won't tell everybody while I'm looking where they can find you.
Okay.
Make sure they know.
My email is Pamela at hypnobreakthrough.com. You can find me on Facebook. My personal Facebook is Pamela Marie, one word, and then you see my last name spelled there, Pamela Marie Topjian. And send me a message, send me a private message, anything that you want to ask about, anything you want to share. If you have any questions or topics you'd like us to discuss here, or if you'd like links, if you can't find the show, or you can't find the documentary, or even links to the Transgender Mentor private Facebook group. I also have a private breakthrough hypnotherapy group if you're interested in that. Also, I should mention, right, that I have a special offer for a free full session of hypnotherapy um, for anybody in the US. Sorry, New Zealand. But, but if you mention LC, if you mention Recovery Soul Food, if you mention Transgender Mentor, when you contact me for hypnotherapy, you will get um, the free consultation with the sample session that I always do, and then a full free one as well. So you can really get a good idea of what it's about, and that alone can be changing, can help
Yes,
you
it
greatly.
can. Yes, it can. All right. This is the song that really is touching.
Oh yes.
Mama, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make you cry. I've been trying to say hello. You thought I was saying goodbye. I know some things aren't for us to decide. I hope you think I'm turning out alright. Mama, I'm grateful that I get this chance to rise, to wake up one more day and see this world with brand new eyes. I know it was your love that gave me life. I hope you're proud of how bright I can shine. 'Cause when I look inside, I can always see a child in this world. I know I'm blessed to be. This one's for my family. This one's for my family. This one's for my family. This one's for my family.
Amazing. Just so that everyone knows and YouTube knows that all of the music and video that is in this video is property of
Real
Bennet
boy.
Wallace, Real Boy, Joe Stevens, Coyote Grace, and it's one of the most amazing films that I've actually seen this year, even though it came out in 2016. If Ben Wallace or Joe Stevens ever see this video, just know that we would love to have you on to tell your part of the story. And thank you so much for telling your story, sharing your lives with us in every single way. Your authenticity inspires me and so many others. So whatever you're doing today and wherever you are, thank you so, so, so much. Pamela, thank you more than I could even say for being a part of this, for answering those hard questions that people do ask you, for being an amazing ally to not only the trans or alphabet, community, but to the recovery community and to yourself. You are an amazing heart, a beautiful soul, and I'm honored to know you. And so thank you for doing this with me yet another week. I appreciate
My
it.
honor. I'm the one that's honored to even be invited into this to do all this. Yeah.
I just can't
Absolutely.
even. I just can't even imagine that. So I just thank you, thank you, thank you. So you guys take Pamela up on her offer. You can, go so deep within yourself using hypnotherapy. I know it's changed my life. It continues to change my life. Make sure you mention Recovery Soul Food LC, or that you saw it right here on the Transgender Mentor YouTube channel, Facebook page, and hit her up. Take her up on that offer. What's there to lose? You get to try it, and you get to try it for free, and it's amazing, amazing help in all of your processes, all your healing processes. It's amazing. So, Pamela, until next Sunday, thank you from my heart. Y'all make sure that you join me on the Recovery Soul Food YouTube page Wednesday morning at 7:45 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for Winning Wednesday Live with me, LC. And we will have the Recovery Soul Food podcast back up and running in a couple months. We're on a hiatus right now. I'm learning and growing and gathering new and amazing guests to bring you and help your recovery journey as well as mine. Right now, I'm loving this whole series here. And don't forget to run over when you leave here to the Walk a Mile in My Shoes. It's called the official Walk a Mile in My Shoes podcast YouTube channel, and be a subscriber there. That's the show that I do with my good friend Eric McCoy, where we are walking a mile in the shoes of hate. It's a very it's
Not as
very
gentle as this.
it's not gentle. It is not
No.
gentle. It's eye-opening. It's more of a put these harsh conversations, these harsh happenings in the world today that we would all like to hide from if we're not experiencing them. We bring them to you so that we can walk a mile in the shoes of all human beings. We heal through
Eye-opening.
understanding. Very, very, very much. So I love you all so, so much. Thanks for being here. Make sure you like, share, turn on your bell notification. And until next time, we will see you later. Pamela, thank you. We'll talk to y'all soon. Bye.